Bring a high-profile WHL team to Tsuut'ina Nation, and really proud of our team on how hard they work to get the hitmen here.
Hitting the ice, a Western Hockey League junior team finds shelter in a COVID-19 pandemic.
This is somebody that was loved by the community, by members of her family, and it's incredibly important that anyone that has information that can help us with this investigation come forward.
And tragedy in Winnipeg, the discovery of a body of a pregnant young woman has city police asking for help to find her killer. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. It's not the way a community planned to spend International Women's Day in mourning after a 6-month-old pregnant woman was found murdered and disposed of in Winnipeg last week. Police are looking to the public for leads. Here's Brittany Hobson with more.
Winnipeg Police Service are left with more questions than answers when it comes to the death of Jana Williams. They are pleading for information surrounding her whereabouts over the past 2 weeks.
This is somebody that was loved by the community, by members of her family, and it's incredibly important that anyone that has information that can help us with this investigation come forward.
Williams' remains were found in Winnipeg's North End on March 4th. Her family says she was about 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. Police believe the 28-year-old was killed at another location before being moved.
We know that somebody was involved with the disposal of her body. That much is for sure, and we're asking for members of the community to come forward and provide us with information. I don't like to use the word disposal. I struggled with another word to use, but when the facts of this case come out, I feel it's the most accurate word to use, unfortunately.
Police wouldn't release cause of death or say when she died, but they believe it was sometime last month. Investigators are looking for information from the homeless community.
It's likely that she was somewhat transient over those 2 weeks. That can create some challenges for our investigators. So we're asking for members of the public to share this information with anyone that lives in the transient community.
On Sunday, a vigil was organized at the site where Williams' body was found. Leah McIver is an MMIWG advocate and organized the event. She spoke emotionally about the impact these vigils have on community members.
It's really hard doing this almost every second week, and it's been a continuum. Even posting our sisters online missing every second, third day. When is it going to stop? When are we going to be safe?
A memorial was set up at the site. Attendees shared memories and words of hope and support for Williams' family.
My love goes out to the family, and Alea said it best, that you have family, that we are there with you, we will walk with you, we will struggle with you, we will cry with you, we will fight with you for Jana. Jana deserves to be honored and loved and deserves justice.
Anyone with information is urged to call Winnipeg Police or Crime Stoppers. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Jana Williams' homicide reached the floor of the House of Commons today. Winnipeg Centre MP Leah Gazan mentioned her in question period and asked the government when they will be more active on the calls to justice made by the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, last Thursday we heard very sad news that another Indigenous woman had been murdered in the city of Winnipeg. She was loved and cherished by her family, community, and friends. I send my love and sympathies. Government inaction is costing the lives of women, girls, 2S LGBTQIA individuals. Her life mattered, and her life was of value. Mr. Speaker, how many more sisters have to be stolen before this government finally implements the 231 calls to justice of the National Inquiry into Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for those comments, and I extend our deepest condolences to the family of the individual that the member had referenced. Our hearts are with the survivors and families of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit and gender diverse people. In response to the first ever national public inquiry on the ongoing national tragedy, our government is working with all provincial and territorial governments, as well as Indigenous leaders, survivors, families, to develop a national action plan that sets a clear roadmap to ensure that Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and gender diverse people are safe.
We want to hear what you think about how Canada is doing with the implementation of the calls to justice made by the National Inquiry. You can share your thoughts with us. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment at aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. You can comment there. And follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. The Atikamekw community of Manawan spent International Women's Day filing a series of complaints with the United Nations over Joyce's principle, the healthcare reform proposal named for Joyce Echequan. She died in a hospital east of Montreal after live streaming racist remarks from nurses. The Quebec government says they support the idea in Joyce's principle, but not its discussion of systemic racism. So the Atikamekw Council of Manawan filed the complaints to apply more pressure internationally. In response, Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller said that racism in healthcare is a Canada-wide issue. He says that the findings in Joyce's principle are also applicable outside of Quebec.
So I'm very hopeful. I've said time and time again, I disagree with Quebec's assessment about systemic racism, but I've also seen flickers of hope and concrete action from the government of Quebec in willing to address this. There's much more work to do, and if everyone thinks that there's a short-term fix, they're not understanding the problem.
We need to take a break, but still ahead, Indigenous women in business are hitting it out of the park. We've got the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business here to explain. Stay with us. Welcome back. The COVID-19 pandemic has been tough on most businesses, but Indigenous women entrepreneurs have been amassing some impressive stats, according to the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business. Tabitha Bull is a member of the Nipissing First Nation in Ontario, and she's the Business Council's newest president. She joins us now from Toronto. First of all, happy International Women's Day to you, Tabitha. And before we get going of the effect of COVID on Indigenous businesses, let's kick things off for International Women's Day by talking about the bright lights. Give us some of the good news about Indigenous women in business this year.
Sure. Thanks for having me, and happy International Women's Day to you as well. We have seen a really exponential growth in Indigenous women entrepreneurs, both in the number of businesses that are being created, in the number of businesses that are exporting, in the number of businesses that are employing more people. So where we would have saw higher sole proprietors, we're now seeing more employing people. And also in the number of businesses who have revenue over $1 million. So really exciting news on the scale of growth.
You know, and the study, the statistics that you guys have at CCAP, breaking down barriers, it examines Indigenous women in business from 2011 to 2019. Notably, how much more women have culture in their businesses. It was 73% versus 55% of male Indigenous entrepreneurs. Women, as you just mentioned, Indigenous women are also less likely to have business loans and more Indigenous employees. You know, your thoughts on all of this? It seems like this is a lot to get excited about.
Yeah, I think, you know, the other thing is also from that same data set is that 83% of Indigenous women-owned businesses rank community and impact on community and their community relationship as their #1 priority. So I think, you know, as women leaders who look at the whole being, the whole of our community, the social impact of what we're doing, it's so exciting to see that these businesses are able to thrive and succeed. And also in the collaboration that happens between Indigenous women owners. You know, it's not a competition. It's about how can we support and lift one another, which has actually resulted in some really great success over the course of the last year.
You know, not part of the study because, as we said, that data set ended in 2019. But, you know, COVID, lots of stories out there about the effects, negative effects of COVID on the business community. How has it been for Indigenous businesses, and I guess, is it all bad news, or is there some success stories out there?
So definitely, we've done 2 studies actually specifically on impact of COVID on Indigenous businesses. We definitely do see that more than half have experienced a very negative impact to their business. But in our more recent data, we're seeing things trending a little bit better than they were back in May. And I don't know if that's, as we move into a potential reopening, or also I think the ability of Indigenous businesses, just because of their resiliency, to create new opportunities and to take on new opportunities. One of those specifically is e-commerce. So we have seen a number of businesses, particularly Indigenous women-owned, that have been able to really take advantage of this new e-commerce platform and haven't actually been able to keep up with some of the demand for their product, which is so exciting.
That is a happy thing we can all cling to here, that any good news stories at this point, right?
Right.
Well, Tabitha, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share this with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Staying on the good news train, we're going to British Columbia, where a woman who is making a difference for others by utilizing the land. APTN's Tina House has those details.
Congratulations.
It's a big day for 24-year-old Maya Antone as she receives the Tim Jones Community Achievement Award from the North Shore Search and Rescue in North Vancouver for her dedication in promoting outdoor sports and an outdoor lifestyle.
It just means the world to me that they look at young folks as inspirational and inspiring. This award is typically a lifetime achievement award, so I am by far the youngest person to ever receive it.
Originally from the Squamish Nation, Antone says by that creating her new society, Indigenous Women Outdoors, she hopes to encourage more women to get outside more and enjoy the land.
The response has been so positive and exciting, and that kind of response has really inspired me to keep going and to really go at it stronger and harder and get as many opportunities as I can for our own people.
Her society organizes outdoor activities and encourages sharing of knowledge and a connection of the land.
It opens up the space for other Indigenous folks to share their language and their culture, and we kind of get this special feeling out together, just sharing pieces of who we are and who our ancestors are with each other on the land, and it's really special.
Maya is also fluent in her Squamish language. Getting outside is important to her, and she wants others to share in that same passion. She partners with other organizations to make that happen.
I would love to see so much more education in the outdoor community that involves Indigenous knowledge in a way that, celebrates us and upholds the knowledge our ancestors have, protected for so long.
Antone says being on the land has taught her so much about her own culture, and for that, she's thankful for those teachings. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
First Nations in Treaty 2 territory in Manitoba say they are trying to better represent the people that live there, and women are playing a key role in developing services and laws within the territory. Daryl Stranger has more.
Part of the Treaty 2 governance structure includes what they call circles. Circles help draft laws and engage leadership with local nations on a variety of issues, including economic development and child and family services. There are 7 circles, with 6 of them being led by women.
When you look back at our history, women were the decision makers. They were the ones on the forefront that made those decisions. And they always made sure that there was balance between men and women, balance between all of the different nation members. So it's really exciting to be part of that on the forefront and paving the way for not only for our own nation, but for other nations who want to take back in their inherent rights and start being self-determining as well.
Barker is the peacemaking circle keeper. She said the Treaty 2 government is working on getting away from the criminal justice system, instead focusing on traditional Anishinaabe practices.
We are working on creating our own Anishinaabe government, and part of that is having our own peacemaking system. In the Western system is called the justice system, but we are trying to steer away from those colonial terms and shift the thinking of how we want to restore harmony in the community. So we call it peacemaking.
Desiree Dorian is a lawyer working as part of the Children, Families and Nations Circle. She's helping lead the way to draft a legislation that will enable the Treaty 2 government to have their own jurisdiction in child and family services. She says having women in the process is imperative to making positive change.
In the sense of women being at the table, so to speak, in this circle, in the context of this work, I think it's incredibly important. We're the mothers. We are the life givers, and our voices are incredibly important when we are talking about bringing fundamental change to this area of the law.
This is just one example of how women are playing key roles in government and leading the way for change for the better. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time for another break, but still ahead. Home games of the Western Hockey League are to be played on an Alberta First Nation. We're going to take you there for a tour. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Here, Islay poses for an inspirational photo in some lovely spring-like weather. This is from the Okanagan region of British Columbia. A big thanks to Sylvia Monroe-Smith for sending us that beautiful shot. And as the seasons begin to change, we'd love to see it from where you live and through your lens. Send your snaps to share at aptn.ca. It could be our next photo of the day. And here's tomorrow's weather forecast. To the east coast, we got -3 and snow for St. John's, 3 and some snow for Halifax. Le Grand River -3 and snow. Kuujjuaq, some flurries, -6 degrees. Sept-Îles, -2 and sunshine. Gaspé, +2 and sunshine. Ottawa, cloud, 7 degrees, sunshine, and 5 for North Bay. 7 and cloud for Kapuskasing, sunshine, and 9 for Timmins. Sulukout, cloud, and 7. Thompson, -5, sunny skies. God's Lake, snow, -5. 7 and cloud for Winnipeg, 4 and cloud for Brandon. -2 and some flurries expected for Yorkton, -3 and some flurries for Saskatoon. Sunshine, -2 in Buffalo Narrows. La Ronge, -3 and sunny. -12 and snow for Fort Chip, -2 for Grand Prairie. Looks like some flurries there too. Only sunny place in Alberta, Calgary, 4 degrees, 5 and cloud for Edmonton, maybe some flurries there. Sunshine and 8 degrees for Kamloops and Penticton, 10 and cloud for Victoria. Dease Lake, -4 and sunshine, -6 and sunny for Fort Nelson. Old Crow, -9, sunshine, -10 for Mayo and Dawson City, sunshine there. Sun in the NWT as well, -15 for Wrigley, -20 for Yellowknife. -25 for Colville Lake and Paulatuck, -18 in Tuck and sunshine there. -23 for Baker Lake and Chesterfield, sunny skies, -22 for Arviat. Kenite, -17 and some flurries expected. Resolute, cloud, -30. With the Mi'kmaq moderate livelihood fishery back in the headlines, a new documentary series on APTN focuses on another kind of fishery, the commercial fishery of one Mi'kmaq community and the people behind it. Here's Angel Moore with a look at Gaspé, the last land.
Peter Martin is captain of a commercial vessel.
For me, kid, I loved it. I want people to know what we're all about, that, you know, that we are doing it properly. And, you know, for me, first and foremost, this is my community. I love to represent them. And to be a captain on a crab boat, I mean, there's no better feeling. I mean, nothing, hands down, is the best.
He's featured in a 13-part series called Gaspé Gawagi, The Last Land, produced by Resolution Pictures and airing on APTN. It tells the stories of the Listugush First Nation fishery. Listugush lies along the Restigouche River on the Quebec border, across from northern New Brunswick. In 1981, Quebec provincial police seized nets to restrict salmon fishing in the Restigouche River. Known as the salmon raids, the police became violent. Today, Listugush has 2 types of fisheries, regulated by the federal government, the food and ceremonial fishery in the fall and the commercial fishery in the spring. Producer of The Last Land, Lisa M. Roth, takes the viewer behind the headlines.
Learning how lobster and raw crab are fished, are harvested, and with the traps and how the bait goes in and how many traps they do in a day was incredibly interesting. Seeing how hard they work. Oh my gosh, they work so hard to get this lobster and raw crab. When I go to the grocery store in Montreal, I certainly look at it differently now.
The series comes after the violent attacks against the Mi'kmaq. Last fall, Sipekne'katik First Nation launched their moderate livelihood fishery. It was met with violence from non-Indigenous fishers. APTN asked Roth how those events impacted the series.
The fishermen of Listigouche, they have a real passion for their jobs. They love being out on the water, and they have a passion for their community, and they have a passion for protecting their rights. I think.
As Canada tries to regulate the moderate livelihood fishery, Martin says it is more than access. The costs have to be considered.
I'm talking actual moderate, because the non-natives wouldn't even consider fishing with 50 traps. It'd be a joke to try to finance $1 million lobster boat and pay for a fishery. So, you know, it's time to step things up.
Producers are planning a second season. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, known as Halifax.
Makes me hungry. The Calgary Hitmen of the Western Hockey League kicked off their season at their new temporary home on Tsuut'ina Nation just outside Calgary's perimeter. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, Hitmen had to relocate so they would not be in contact with the NHL teams that are playing in Calgary. And their search for an incredible facility led them to their First Nations neighbor. Tamara Pimentel was there for the action.
Even with a 2-0 win, it was a quiet game without fans for the Calgary Hitmen, and an exciting moment for Tsuut'ina Nation as their Seven Chiefs logo was on display during the team's first broadcast of the season.
It's a pretty good thing for the nation to bring a high-profile WHL team to Tsuut'ina Nation, and really proud of our team on how hard they work to get the Hitmen here.
Tsuut'ina's Seven Chiefs Sportsplex is the Hitmen's temporary home because of pandemic restrictions. And Brent Dodging Horse, a council member for the nation and former player for the Hitmen, says this is great exposure for the community.
Anytime you can bring positive role models to your community, that's a good thing. I always want to promote healthy relationships, healthy mental wellness, healthy athleticism.
Equipped with training facilities, with the ability to broadcast games and hold accommodations at the Grey Eagle Hotel, Brad Curl with the team says Tsuut'ina is the perfect alternative.
Everybody at Seven Chiefs Sportsplex and on Tsuut'ina Nation have been first class. The organization behind the scenes has been outstanding. The accommodations are excellent and the players are very excited. It really is a perfect scenario.
Dodging Horse says even though community members can't watch the game in person, having the Hitmen here boosts the nation's economy.
The occupancy rate isn't as good as we had hoped, but with all the restrictions in Alberta, bringing the Hitmen in and having them on the ice as a rental and bringing them into the hotel, it's a win-win on both sides.
The team will call Seven Chiefs home for the duration of the Western Hockey League season. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Tsuut'ina Nation.
Some snazzy digs there. Well, that is a wrap on your news to kick off the week. I want to wish all moms, daughters, sisters, aunties, grandmothers a very happy International Women's Day. Thank you all for that you do and all that you are in our families and our communities. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.